that is new to Jiu Jitsu, you are a female or you're a beginner, this is for you. If you're somebody that's starting off a new sport, this can also be for you. It's going to be talking about a few things on how you can in fact feel a little bit more comfortable in a time where you're probably not feeling super comfortable with the changes happening. So when I first went into Jiu Jitsu, there was not a lot of females in my school. I felt pretty intimidated by a lot of the guys just because there was like 20 to 30 of them on a consistent basis. And I was a little college kid that didn't know a lot, right? So going into it can be really scary. Going into anything new can be very frightening, especially when it comes to incorporating and collaborating both your mental, emotional side along with your physical, right? So when I went into Jiu Jitsu, I remember the first thing, I was just so nervous that I almost couldn't function. And then when you start Jiu Jitsu, or anything new, but specifically Jiu Jitsu, you have this fight or flight instinct that you don't know how to control. And I remember, you're just constantly trying to survive and figure out like, why are they grabbing this? And what are they gonna do now? And what am I supposed to do? And all these thoughts flood your mind, and then you almost get stuck even more because you're not sure what to do, but it happens to everybody when they start. So you're not alone in that. But one of the things that I recommend you do in the very beginning that has helped me a ton, and it still helps a lot of people to this day, is simply repetition. So do yourself a favor and start going consistently to 1 or 2, I would say a minimum of 3 classes a week. And that goes for also doing something new, like a new sport or activity. I think 3 is a really good place to start. It's very realistic. Losing weight, I always suggest 3 days a week is a good place to start. Why? Because you start to involve yourself more to where your body and brain start to become connected, along with establishing good habits, good consistent routine, but not scaring yourself or overwhelming yourself to the point where it might feel like a negative effect. It might feel like something that you're not enjoying. So you want to push past those barriers by having that set routine, by getting yourself uncomfortable on a frequent basis, but then allowing yourself to have that grace period of saying, I'm here to learn. It is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's okay. For women specifically, not all women are like this, but for me, what I recommend for most women that are starting off or you're interested in starting off is first of all knowing that you might just feel uncomfortable for about a month to 2 months. 2 months is a pretty long time, but I always say at least 3 weeks. Give yourself 3 weeks to see if you really enjoy it or you're just not a big fan of Jiu Jitsu. And the same thing goes for another activity. Push yourself through those first 3 weeks and then come up with a good alternative if it's something you don't like. Because only having that first encounter doesn't do much. When you start to have it on a consistent basis, you really start to see the pros, the cons, the things you can really become passionate about, and then the things that you're just not in love with, which that's gonna happen with everything that you do. So for Jiu Jitsu, when you're starting off, for me, it was really important to just show up. So doing that 3-pack mindset, like a minimum of 3, just showing up 3 days a week, being consistent, showing your professor or your coach that you're involved and you're trying to learn. It doesn't mean you have to love it, but it means and shows that you're very dedicated to at least learning and understanding, right? So show up, learn, have those 3 minimum days that you're gonna be showing up. And then the second thing I'm gonna say is allow yourself to just be okay with not knowing everything. I think for so many of us, we want to know the beginning and end to a story. We want to have the answer right when we have the question. And the beauty of Jiu Jitsu and the beauty of just learning something new like this is you're gonna find some answers, but you're not gonna find all the answers, and you have to be okay with that. So in the beginning, you're gonna have a lot of questions. You're gonna have a lot of doubts and confusion. It's gonna feel overwhelming. That's with anything new. But specifically, I talk about Jiu Jitsu simply because in my story, in my life, I remember feeling really lost for that first month, really overwhelmed and extremely discouraged because I just wasn't sure I was gonna get the hang of it. I wasn't sure if I was even gonna get past remembering what mount was, and remembering what guard control was and side control, and it's hard. But it's okay, and you have to be okay with not knowing everything and simply going onto the mat, going into that new activity that you're going to be doing and saying, I need to know a few, questions and answers. But the other thing is that I'm going to learn along the way, and that's okay. So the first thing I recommend that you're going to be doing is setting your plan for a minimum of 3. Allow yourself to just be okay with not knowing everything. I think for so many of us, we want to know the beginning and end to a story. We want to have the answer right when we have the question. And the beauty of Jiu Jitsu and the beauty of just learning something new like this is you're gonna find some answers, but you're not gonna find all the answers, and you have to be okay with that. So in the beginning, you're gonna have a lot of questions, you're gonna have a lot of doubts and confusion, it's gonna feel overwhelming. That's with anything new. But specifically, I talk about Jiu Jitsu simply because in my story, in my life, I remember feeling really lost for that first month, really overwhelmed and extremely discouraged because I just wasn't sure I was gonna get the hang of it. I wasn't sure if I was even gonna get past remembering what mount was and remembering what guard control was and side control, and it's hard, but it's okay, and you have to be okay with not knowing everything and simply going onto the mat, going into that new activity that you're going to be doing and saying, I need to know a few, questions and answers. But the other thing is that I'm going to learn along the way, and that's okay. So for me in Jiu Jitsu, the one thing that I had to do was learn to ask good questions, but also learn that my body and my mind will start to figure things out as I go. And then as you continue to progress, a lot of those questions will be answered. And then some may not be, and that's okay. And if it's something that you for sure can get an answer on, that's exactly why you have a coach. That's exactly why you have a professor in Jiu Jitsu, so you can get that clarity and get that understanding. One of the best things that I ever did was simply just have good questions ready for my professor. And then also pull him aside after class and just simply ask him if I felt like there was something I wasn't doing correctly or something I knew I could do better. And I think a lot of times that 1% comes into play when we know the type of questions we want to ask, with the other hand of being it's okay to not know every single detail. So think about it, understand it, have that plan of setting aside 3 days a week, being consistent, and know that you're gonna make it. A lot of times we don't think that we're gonna make it because, it can be so overwhelming or we just can't see the full picture. But I think that's the beauty of having a human life, is sometimes you can't always see the full picture, but the process and the journey can be such a struggle, but such an enjoying part of everything. And we have to be able to kind of go through the days and understand that it's okay. So I encourage you, if you have any questions, to write them down below, and know and understand that going through any new process in life is going to have these kinds of feelings, these kinds of thoughts. And so that's why this is here, this channel is set in place for you to have that one thing that you can work on, that 1% that you can get better at. And the one thing that I'm talking about today is showing up with that 3-day plan, and showing up knowing that, yes, ask questions, but also know that not all questions will be answered right away.